like scary movies and coffee.
The following show is based on research on horror movies and what goes on behind the scenes of your favorite scary movies. HORDE Entertainment or Reanimate Her is not responsible for the macabre and horror that you are about to witness. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, my daywalkers. I am Reanimate Her, your queen of horror, and this is Coffee Chat of Horrors, the only horror show that takes its coffee like it's magic, and that is black. Today's coffee show comes to you from Deadly Grounds Coffee, Canada. This is Haunted House in medium roast. I love it. It is delicious. And today we'll be talking about Tobe Hooper's 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So make sure you slap on that SPF 666, grab a bloody bucket of brains, and enjoy the show. Now, quick reminder, if you have any questions about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, please tag me in the comments or highlight your chat, whichever one is comfortable for you. And if you have not seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm going to highly recommend it. I'm going to give you a little bit about the plot, and then we're going to go in and we're going to check out the trailer, the original trailer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, 5 friends head out to rural Texas to visit the grave of their grandfather. On the way, they stumble across what appears to be a deserted house, only to discover something sinister within, something armed with a chainsaw. So imagine being back then, hearing that this is a true story, which we're going to touch topic on that as well, and seeing the frightening scenes. I mean, Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was nothing like it out on the market. Nothing back then. They had their Exorcist, but that was on a totally different level, a totally different type of film. Tobe Hooper directed the original slasher classic, which many consider this film as the grandfather of the slasher genre, which helped reinforce the many traits of the slasher film tropes we now have. The final girl, the power tools as weapons, and the great hulking mass killer looming around and committing violent murders on the people around them. The slasher classic has inspired many other famous directors and films that we watch today. Yeah, I would too. I would definitely flip out if I seen that. If I was back in that day, like when I seen it as a kid, it blew my mind. I thought it was real, right? This is pre-internet, guys. So when I seen it, good morning, Mischief. When I seen it, I was like, oh my God, this is real. It was quite scary back then. And I know this day and age, it's not so much because we've got things like Terrifier, right? Yeah. Now, we know Tobe Hooper was inspired by a few different outlets when creating Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of them being a grave robber and murderer, Ed Gein. I don't call Ed Gein a serial killer, to be honest, because he really didn't kill that many people. He robbed a lot of graves and created a lot of crazy stuff back in the 1950s. So, he does deserve to be up there with the rest of those psychos. Now, besides being inspired by Ed Gein, he was also inspired to make the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he seen the Christmas shopping crowd. He was in a hardware store, and it was the Christmas crowd. And he's quoted saying this. This is his exact quotes. "There were these big Christmas crowds. I was frustrated. I found myself near a display rack of chainsaws. I just kind of zoned in on it. I did a rack focus to the saws, and I thought, I know a way I could get through this crowd really quickly. I went home, sat down, all the channels just tuned in. The zeitgeist blew through, and the whole damn story came to me in what seemed like 30 seconds. The hitchhiker, the old brother at the gas station, the girl escaping twice, the dinner sequence, people out in the country, out of gas." I thought that was really cool. Possibly Zach, because he did kill his brother. Yeah, definitely. That could be a thing. Definitely. Hi, sweetie. How are you? Now, Leatherface is allegedly based on a real person Tobe Hooper knew, according to an interview. Yeah, I know a lot of people think this story is true story, and it's not. It's not. It's very loosely based on Ed Gein and this guy that Tobe Hooper once knew. So the idea actually came from a doctor he knew. He says, quote, "I remember that he once told me the story about how and when he was a pre-med student. The class was studying cadavers, and he went into the morgue and skinned a cadaver and made a mask for Halloween. We decided Leatherface would have different human skin masks to fit each of his moods," which there is. In the very original 1974 film, there are 3 masks. And these 3 masks portray his 3 different moods or emotions that he was running. Hi, Strange. Good morning, Big Blue. As an artist, you do find inspiration in random places. I definitely agree. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was not the original title for this film. The title was supposed to be Head Cheese, named after the scene in which Hitchhiker details the process of how to make the product. So you remember when you jump in to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and they have the Hitchhiker and he's in the van with them, right? And he's sitting there talking about the slaughterhouse and how head cheese is made. That is how the name would have come into play with head cheese. However, a week before filming, they changed it to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, in my opinion, I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre would have had more grasp to it than head cheese. I think the film probably would not have been as well recepted. I mean, trust me, it wasn't well recepted in a positive way. It was recepted. This movie has been banned in numerous countries when it first came out. And I believe in the UK up until 1975, 1976. That is the original name of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Would have been Head Cheese instead of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, and I thought that was quite interesting. As a fan of this genre, of this franchise, it is my second favorite franchise, and I love it so very much. It's got quite a bit of lore. Thank God it went to that. Exactly, Melon. Head Cheese, Mr. Strange. Yes, hello, Shellys. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you. Well, welcome to Coffee Chat of Horrors. If you're just tuning in, we are discussing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. Now, the camera styles of Texas Chainsaw Massacre were purposely done so you could recreate the monstrosities of the violence in your own imagination, which was very brilliant of its time. I mean, very brilliant, because if you actually look at the film, it's not as gruesome and gory as it sounds, but your brain and your imagination create these things that make it that way, right? And that was what Tobe was going for. He was going for a PG-13 rating on this. Obviously, it didn't get that rating. He was thankful that it didn't get an X rating, because if it got an X rating, it would have never been in the theaters. It would have never had a theatrical release. And then nobody would have seen it. And then we would have missed out on all this glorious cannibalism, right? Yeah, the fears your brain think of are amazing, and no matter what, your imagination is going to run wild. A lot of people walked out of the theater or see Texas Chainsaw Massacre to this day and say that they seen this and they seen that when they really did not. If they go back and they actually watch the movie again, that is something they saw in their mind's eye, because a lot of the sounds that you see is off of the actual gore. His chainsaw, you do see him running after somebody, you do see everything happening, but then the real gore scenes are actually, the camera is moved off. So your brain is creating the scenes that it thinks it's seeing, right? It's pretty cool on how the human brain works. Now, I do want to mention as a side note, because we have the video game, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game, which I love. It is my favorite game right now. I mean, it doesn't beat Friday the 13th, but right now it's my favorite addicted game to play. And I know the video game, it's bringing its own lore in. I just want to make sure they get that clear, because there is a lot of lore in the franchise of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then the video game also brings original lore and adds their own lore on top of it, right? So a quick side note on something that has been brought up because of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game, and that is the name that you see on the gas station. It is W.E. Slaughter. Now, we first see W.E. Slaughter fully in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. But did you know in the first film in 74, we see a reference to W.E. Slaughter, which is a play on words. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pat, for the biddies. Yeah, Maria Flores is freaking dead, y'all. She really is. Why is that pop? Never mind. I thought it was weird. Anyways, the sign at the gas station does say W.E. Slaughter Barbecue, but without the W.E. in it. It's just We Slaughter Barbecue. And I know that the continuity of this franchise is very crazy, and we will definitely go more into that and on W.E. later in the web series. So we will actually go into the rest of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre deep dive in Coffee Chat of Horrors. So that'll be some upcoming movies that we will be discussing. And we'll go from there. Now, we're going to dive a little bit into the family, because I definitely know that there is some confusion in the family. Definitely a lot of confusion, especially since Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game came out and added their own lore. Nice, Strange. I did a Conjuring series where I actually interviewed Andrea Perrone of that family that The Conjuring was based off of. It's on my YouTube channel. I actually might be getting her on here again later this year. Now, the very old patriarch of the family is Grandpa Sawyer. He is very old and very frail. He is the father of Drayton and the grandfather to Nubbins, Chop Top, and Leatherface. Okay? So we have the family matriarch and patriarch going to come down right now for TCM 74. Nubbins, actually Drayton Sawyer, also known as the Old Man or the Cook. In part 1 and part 2, he is the cook and the old man. He is the old man that runs the We Slaughter Barbecue gas station in 1, and he is the head cook in part 2, where he wins for best chili and barbecue in part 2. And he's one of my favorite characters in 1. Just the way he is, and his facial features are quite scary when he is trying to get his emotions across when he's doing his things. Like, he has that broken broomstick that he beats Sally with. Yeah. The cook got it in the end. He did. He definitely did. Spoiler alert. Now, Drayton is the brother of Jedediah, aka Leatherface, Nubbins, and Chop Top. Okay. Now we have Nubbins Sawyer, who is also known as the Hitchhiker. He is one of the 2 eldest brothers. He appears in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and in the first sequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with Dennis Hopper. He is portrayed as a mentally unstable and murderous cannibal who also loves to grave rob, which we definitely know. Nubbins loves to grave rob. You can definitely see that in the beginning of Texas Chainsaw Massacre when John Larroquette's voice comes on and they go through the whole thing. And then that scene where it's the graveyard where the body was dug up and it made some kind of like totem on top of the gravestone. You definitely know that was friggin' Nubbins. Hi, cereal. His mindset too, he thinks he's being merciful and benevolent. Yeah. But we're going to get into the emotions of the family. I have that in here as well, because not only is the family psychotic, but there are a lot of underlying mental health issues on top of everything, especially when they feel that they are doing what's right. Now, one of my most favorite family members is Chop Top. Now, Chop Top is not seen until the second film. However, Chop Top was supposed to be in the original film, but they rewrote it. And Chop Top, aka Bobby Sawyer. I don't know if anybody knew that one for Chop Top. Chop Top's actual name was Bobby Sawyer. He is Nubbin's twin brother and a Vietnam soldier. So when they wrote TCM1, technically Chop Top was supposed to be in it, but they rewrote and made some changes and then brought Chop Top in later in part 2. Well, I was just hoping nobody was going to play any. I don't have it on my thing, right? Thanks, monkey. I don't have the overlay on, so we do not get to meet Chop Top right away. Again, he is my favorite character when it comes to part 2, and I would have loved to seen him in part 1. Now, most of my most favorite, like numero uno of the Sawyer clan is Leatherface, aka Jedediah Sawyer. He doesn't go by any other name besides the Sawyer family. Like I said, W.E. Slaughter doesn't come into play until Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And the play on words, "We Slaughter Barbecue," is just the sign at the gas station. Now, I know there's going to be some fanboys that are going to argue with me on that, but show me where in the movie it says that W.E. Slaughter. Okay? That is family. Secretos! Ah, She Kratos, how are you doing today? Oh, there we go. Buffy theme, all for you, all for you. Exactly, Serial, exactly. The fact of the matter is that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there are the main family, and they are the Sawyers. Deadwalk, how are you? Thank you very much for the compliment, She Kratos. Okay, so now back to Jedediah Sawyer, which is Leatherface. We do come to know him as Bubba in part 2 because Chop Top actually calls him Bubba. So he does become Bubba. I know there's some chit chatter about Leatherface and Bubba and what's the right nickname for him. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, he is Leatherface. Yes, he does become the official Bubba in part 2. And that is thanks to Chop Top. Now, I always call him Bubba. Good morning, Basement Cat. I always call him Bubba because that's who he is to me. And you're not going to change my mind on that. Good morning, Ake. How are you? Now, we just went through the family and my thoughts on Leatherface and the whole family as a whole.
The benefits are great, but the screaming.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much for sacrificing your soul. 39 months. I appreciate it. Now, the thoughts on the family. The family is very mentally and physically handicapped. They believe some of the things that they are doing are putting people out of their misery, as you can see throughout the first film. Bubba, Leatherface, was tormented and bullied by his family. So he is really a victim in this chapter of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I'm going to explain why I see him as a victim, because the whole family grew up in poverty because the slaughterhouse closed down. Grandpa used to be the best slaughterer ever in all of Texas. However, the slaughterhouse did close. Grandpa is now super friggin' old, and the family had to turn to other sorts of avenues to get food. So that would be cannibalism, right? So besides that, where they were dirt friggin' poor, they had no other real rules and regulations because of where they lived in Texas. They lived in a very rural, not populated area of Texas. And you see that as you're going through, as the group of young people are traveling in their van and they go through Texas, the scenery is very secluded, very desolated. There isn't many landmarks. There's not much except for the gas station, the slaughterhouse, and the Sawyer family home, right? So that when they pull over, they get out, they do their things, there's nobody around, nobody in the space, nobody can see them, right? There's no help. So we definitely see that they grew up in a desolated area, poor, not enough food, mental health, and physical issues. Bubba had a disease that happened to his face on top of his mental health. Bubba is a victim. Leatherface is a victim. Now, so is Drayton and Nubbins. We do see that Nubbins is very mentally handicapped, as well as Drayton Sawyer. The entire family is. So I would believe, in my opinion, the entire family is a victim of society. They were forced to do what they had to do because, one, they had no mental health help. Two, no food. They were poor. Nobody helped them. So they had to do what they could do on their own, right? So, and I think the biggest victim in the whole story of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is Leatherface. You can see how he gets beated and berated by his own family members, and he's only trying to do well, and he's only trying to make his family happy. He does his very best in trying to capture the killers, the victims, I mean, for trespassing on their property. Now, that's where I stand on that. According to the cast and crew and several documentaries that I have watched, they stated that shooting was horrific. They shot in Texas. And back then, I don't even know what the weather is like in Texas right now, but back then, on set in Texas, the weather was hitting about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And when they say that it was a horror to film, it's because a lot of the carcasses that you see, the bones, the feathers, the meat, the blood, all of that stuff was real. All of it was real. Hi, Sailor darling. Hi, Jake. All of that was real. The bones were real. The furniture was real. They made the furniture on set out of bone. Now, it's definitely cheaper that way than to actually get the stuff produced. On top of that, all of the meat that you see, all of the flesh that you see, that is real. They did borrow it from a veterinarian place out in Texas. But can you imagine the smell of rotting flesh and rotting food, just rotting everything in that heat of like 100 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit? That would have to be some horrific shit. And I know when I was watching one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre documentaries, they were saying they would leave the set smelling like rotten flesh. And I could not think what that would smell like. Imagine sitting there all day inhaling that. I don't know how they did it. I honestly do not know how they did it. The animal corpses that you see are all strewn throughout the Sawyer house. They were all borrowed from a local veterinary place. So no actual animals were harmed. These things were already dead ahead of time, right? Near the end of production, the question of how to get rid of the corpses came up, because how do you get rid of that? I do appreciate it, Jake. Thanks, Serial. Like, how do you get rid of that? How do you get rid of all of these carcasses? Because it was a lot. They had a lot. And they utilized a lot of the animal skins to make lampshades and to create what they created. All of the furniture that you've seen in the house was all bone and created for that set, which is quite cool. I would love to have one of those. Now, how they got rid of the bodies, the corpses of the animals, they had a big ass fire. They had a big ass fire and threw all of them in the center and just torched that shit. And that is exactly how they got rid of it. I couldn't imagine what it would smell like, because it took them a few days to film. A few days to film with those rotting corpses of meat laying all over the friggin' place. Now, the saw in the film is actually real. There are some parts where the teeth were removed, but for most of the shots, that chainsaw was actually real. It was going. Cast members were sometimes put in real danger. They had to get the realistic look of that chainsaw happening. A lot of people think that the chain was just taken off. No, there was only a few instances where the teeth were removed. Other than that, it was actually real. And yeah, a Poulon 306A. Yeah. Thanks, Stereo. But could you imagine being, welcome to the crypt. Welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. Could you imagine being one of the actors or actresses there, knowing that the chainsaw could really rip through your flesh? There was a few scenes, one with the guy where he goes after him with the chainsaw. That is the actual chainsaw, teeth and all. And if Gunnar would have fucked up just a little bit, he would have taken off somebody's head. Yeah. I have no idea what Monkey was trying to say there. Now, Ed Neal, who plays the hitchhiker, would go into the Austin Village Theater, and he would wait for his scenes to come up. And when he did, he would go around tapping on viewers' shoulders throughout the movie. Just tap, tap, tap on their shoulders, which would scare the ever-living shit out of people. Like, could you imagine having him looking like he's looking and tapping on your shoulders in the movie theater, knowing going into this movie that this is based on real events that happened in Texas? So just think about that. You're in Texas. You're in a movie theater inside Texas. You're watching this so-called based on true story horror movie about cannibals, and this crazy ass hitchhiker is now actually tapping on your shoulder. I would think some people would have shit their pants right there. I know I would have. Like I don't know about you guys, but I think that would have scared the ever-living crap out of me. Yeah. But the movie theater did ask Ed Neal not to return anymore to the theater. Yeah. How did your tattoo go, She Kratos? We'll take open any questions about the film that we have so far. If not, I'm going to continue going after I drink a little bit more of my coffee. I do hope you all are enjoying Coffee Chat of Horrors and our deep dive into Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sailor, I hope you're doing well. We'll finish my coffee here. What was your favorite part of the first film? Oh my Lord, there's quite a bit. But the first part of the film, you know, where they walk into the house and Leatherface just opens up that big metal door and you see him there for like the first time? That scene right there. One of my favorite photography scenes of that movie, though, is when the female in the red shorts is walking up to the house and they have that down. The camera is down looking up and they catch the girl and the house all at the same time. I think that is the most beautiful shot right there. I thought it was a very beautiful shot. Hi, Nadra. And the fact that we get to see Leatherface, he just opens up that friggin' door and you've got this this hulking mass of monster right there. And then another part that I really like is when he grabs her, which is the most iconic scene in that film, is where she's running out the door and all of a sudden he snatches her ass and pulls her in and her whole body just, arms and legs are out like that. It just, yeah, the way he grabbed her, man, that definitely was like, oh shit. Definitely, Melon. Definitely. There was a lot of scenes in that film that just stuck to you after the fact. My body started going into shock and got tattoo flu last night. No. I'm hoping you're feeling better, She Kratos. I was trying to say that it only takes 30 minutes to an hour for some people. Oh, I have no idea what the hell that is, Monkey. But yeah, it's a really good scene. Thanks, Zoom. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. I hope everyone's having a great Sunday. Now, back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. According to John Larroquette, his payment for doing the open narration was a joint, cannabis. Now, John Larroquette wasn't huge when this film came out. He was just really getting into acting and doing his career. And if you guys don't know who John Larroquette is, for those of you that are as old as I am, do you remember the TV show Night Court? well, one of the lawyers in there was John Larroquette, and his voice is so iconic in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It really makes it. My coffee, yes. This here, what I'm drinking today is from Deadly Grounds, Canada. It's called Haunted House. It is a medium roast. It is friggin' delicious. And yes, I do have a Coffee Chat of Horror mug. If anybody is interested, you can get it in my merch store. There's several of them because they all are different classic monsters. Yeah. He was on Night Court and, in fact, also on the new Night Court. Yes, I haven't really watched the new Night Court. Thank you, Dead End. I appreciate it. I hope the joint was the best thing he ever had. I would hope so, too. Because, you know, I wonder if John Larroquette sits here now and thinks about what has become of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the open narration. The minute you hear the opening narration with the camera sounds, that is iconic. I don't care where you are around the world, you know that voice and that sound. Boo. Welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. But yeah, it's quite crazy to see where the film started on its journey and where it is today. And this is before Halloween. This is before Jason Voorhees. This is before a lot of the slashers that we know today. And I think it's really cool that this was thought of such a long time ago. It's like the Star Wars crawl. Everyone knows it. Exactly. Everybody knows it. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Everybody knows it. And it's cool. The minute you actually hear it. Hello, I found you on my recommended, and I was like, yes, these are my people. Well, welcome, Boo, welcome. This is Coffee Chat of Horrors, where I deep dive into horror movies on Sunday mornings. We do this twice a month, and if it does well, we may do it more often. But right now, it gets done twice a month, and today we are deep diving into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There will be a VOD of this up live as well on my podcast, so you guys can catch it. It's always fun, right, Super Mario? Thank you. I hope you're having a great Sunday there, Boo. Now, but yeah, can you imagine one marijuana joint for doing the opening scene of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? You got to think if, you know, John Larroquette sits there now and just thinks about what kind of money they could have made. Hi, Anifa. Anfia? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. It is the best stream. Well, thank you, Serial Killer. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I would be blown away right now because of it. Just if I was John Larroquette, right? And I mean, I was kind of disappointed that in the video game we didn't get John Larroquette's voice, but maybe they wanted to go a different way and they did not get the voice. I'm not really sure why the video game did not. Thank you. That's wild. I couldn't imagine only getting a joint for something so iconic, right? Well, you wouldn't really know because back in 1974 is when the film came, but back in 1973, when everything was going on and being created, John Larroquette's career wasn't where it was at when it hit the 80s, right? Maybe he wanted two joints. Maybe. Sailor F cereal. I would hope it would have been a good joint. I mean, I really would have hoped it would be a good one, especially for back then. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like, would you ever thought that it would become so iconic and so popular? Like, really, who would have thought it back then? Now, Marilyn Burns, she's the main character. She plays Sally Hardesty in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she is chased by Leatherface through some underbrush, like undergrowth, and she actually got cut and injured while creating her scenes with Bubba. Well, that there's a scene where she's running through all of the undergrowth, and this is where Franklin is already dead, and so she's running through it, and she gets scratched up quite badly, and so the blood on her clothes, a lot of it is her actual blood. There was a lot of fake blood on her as well, and by the time shooting was done, her clothes were solid, like literally solid, dried because of the blood, and not just her blood, but the fake blood that was on it. Welcome, Kiba Wolfie. Thank you for the follow. From what I heard from Toby, it was rumored to be a big bag of weed, but he doesn't remember. No, and I seen when I was scrolling through some articles, interviews on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's where I found John Larroquette saying his payment was a joint. Now, maybe a joint and a bag back then meant the same thing. I really don't know. I was not around in the early 70s, but I don't know. And I found that information just by going through a couple of the interviews that I have found. My necklace, I'm not sure. I think it was on Etsy. In my job, I was tipped by a customer 3 joints. Nice, basement cat. But yeah. It depends on who's saying it, but if it's coming from John Larroquette himself, I would believe John Larroquette on that. Who knows if it was a bag cereal? But yes, I read that as well, and the reason why I didn't put that in here was because there was no concrete confirmation it was a bag. And when John Larroquette was interviewed, in his interview, he stated a few times in the different interviews that it was a joint and not a bag. But maybe he did get his information wrong, because that was a long time ago, and that was before the 80s, and his career hit big, right? Hello, Kiba Wolf. What a cool learning experience. Well, I'm glad you are enjoying it. I love horror, and I love sharing my passion and knowledge for it. But welcome. It is almost Halloween. Yeah. Maybe worried about trouble. Damn stoners. You never know. But yes, now back to Marilyn Burns. I feel like I need a job to cast voice actors. I have a thing for it. I think you do, Sailor. I do. I think you do. And I think you should go and check that out. Voice acting is very big, especially among the gaming industry. Now, going back to Marilyn Burns' outfit, she did not have numerous outfit changes. She's in the same white pants and tank top that you see in the film. There wasn't extra clothing for her to change into. Neither was there for Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface. So the amount of blood that was on her clothing throughout the shooting of the film, when she was able to take it off, her clothes were friggin' stiff. Like full on stiff. And she had to wear that again after sweating in it. Right? Got to remember, anywhere between 100 and 120 degrees in the Texas heat. Now, they were trying to film at night when it was somewhat cooler, but there were scenes that were shot daytime. There were scenes that were shot in the night. And just imagine very crunchy clothing, basement. Yes, very crunchy. Can you just imagine the smell? I mean, I'm sure she had deodorant on. Maybe it was the 70s. Who fucking knows? But the smell. No worries. You do your creeping, She Kratos. Thank you for being here. I thought this was really cool about the soundtrack of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Has no real sounds from musical instruments, with the exception of the copyrighted music that they had rights to. So instead, they used sounds of animals that you would hear in the slaughterhouse. They actually went around taping the sounds animals made in a slaughterhouse. So the clanging, the vocals of the animals, like the acoustics. Enjoy your lurk. Yeah, definitely. But all of the sounds that they were making and hearing in the slaughterhouse. So if you listen to the soundtrack and you go back into the movie and you just listen to some of the music, if you have the director's cut, there's a lot of music in that one as well. I have numerous copies of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise and collector's editions with director's commentary, yada yada. But if you go through it and you listen, you'll be able to hear and pull out those sounds. Enjoy your lurk, Shellies. Now, I thought that was pretty cool tidbit of information that they used animal. They went into the slaughterhouse and recorded that shit. John Duggan, who played Grandpa. Yes, he played Grandpa. He was in full makeup. And he was quoted in an interview stating that he did not want to go through the entire process again. So he would not do any other scenes of Grandpa at any other time. because of the heat and the costume and the makeup that he had to wear. Remember, there was no AC back in the back where they were filming. No AC at all. He had pounds of makeup on him, clothing, the stench in the air of all the rotten animal corpses hanging around, the sweat and stench of other people, cast and crew in that heat. He said he was not going through that process. Everything had to be filmed in the same session before he took his makeup off. Now, the entire process of his films, like his scenes, 36 hours, with 5 of those hours took putting the makeup on. So 36 hours in total for his shooting of his scenes alone as Grandpa. That is a lot of time. Yeah. 36 friggin' hours, with 5 of those hours being makeup. Hey, Faust, and welcome, Kevin. Welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. Yeah. The actors were a trooper. Definitely were a trooper, Melon. 100%. Yeah. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him for not wanting to do the whole process over again. That would really suck. He refused, and it made the last day of shooting hell for everyone. That it did. They had to do all of his scenes, and it took 36 hours. Hey, Macabre. How you doing, Faust? Now, due to the low budget of the film, which was super low, we'll get into the budget as well and what it made. All of that information in a little bit later. But due to low budget, Gunnar Hansen only had one shirt. That's it. So the shirt had been dyed, so it could not be washed. They were not able to wash the shirt. So at least for the others, they were able to kind of wash and try to get some of the stuff out and the stank out. Hi, Dark. But for Gunnar, may he rest in peace. He passed away in 2015. But for Gunnar, he only had one shirt, and it was dyed, and they could not wash it. So Hansen had to wear it for 4 straight weeks of filming in the hot and humid Texas summer. That is so friggin' gross. I could not imagine his experience. Not only was there sweat from his own body, but just everything else that was upon him. And he was physically running in that film. So by the end of the shoot, nobody wanted to stand near Hansen or sit next to him during breaks to eat lunch because his clothing smelled so bad. Exactly. That was before Febreze was a thing. Also, when Gunnar was getting ready for his role, he wouldn't talk to the other cast and crew because he needed to be in that realm of that frame of mind. And Franklin, you guys know Franklin, he was really hated on set. Really hated on set. Gunnar loved killing him in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When the guy who played Franklin was casted, he was told that he needed to be obnoxious. He needed to be annoying. He just needed to be somebody that they wanted to punch in the face all the time. And he pulled it off. And he stayed in his character so much that the cast and crew that he worked with hated him. They disliked him 110%. And Gunnar Hansen is noted saying in an interview, several interviews and documentaries, that it felt really good to kill him. Yeah. I thought that was a really cool tidbit because I hate Franklin. I despise Franklin. I'm so glad they murderized him because he was so annoying. And may that actor rest in peace. He was an amazing actor, definitely. Even though it made you want to punch him in the face, right? So he did bring that emotion. There isn't one person that I know that have seen the movie that said Franklin was their favorite character. Hey, chat, what is all of your favorite scenes in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies? Yeah, let me know. What is your favorite chapter in the franchise, as well as do you have a favorite scene, or where were you, or how old were you when you seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time? I know for those of you that are, my generation, I rented it from the VHS shop, and I rented it because of the cover of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was my reasoning for renting it. I didn't know anything about it, right? And by the time I got to see it on, on TV, they weren't playing the trailer anymore for the movie. Trailers were only played to get people hyped for the movie theater experience. So later on in the 80s, there was no trailer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You were able to see TCM on TV. Avalon Gale, welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. Part 2 Bubba with Nubbin suit on. Oh my God, right? Not everybody realizes that in part 2, in the opening scene where they're going after the 2 boys in the vehicle, he's wearing nubbins. He is wearing nubbins on him. But we will do a deep dive into part 2 for Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Coffee Chat of Horrors down the road. It's probably not going to be the next one. I don't know. We'll see what the next one will be. Pretty much after the first weekend, the trailers would go away. Yeah, basically. Part 2 is one of my favorite movies as well. I do love the first one. However, the second one is my favorite. And the second one's my favorite because we get to see Bubba. First, we get to know that Bubba's nickname is Bubba, right? Leatherface is Bubba. And then we get to meet Chop Top. And we get to learn the story a little bit more about Chop Top. And then we also get to see Bubba's first love. Because it's somewhat of a love story, right? And you can see that when he first meets Stretch. He didn't horrifically murder Stretch, okay? If you look at the film, the second film, he doesn't murder her. He could have easily murdered her numerous times, especially in the fights in the radio station, right? I think when I watched it, it may had been banned in the UK for a while. Not 100% sure. Yeah, Reaper, I believe it was 1975, 1976 that it wasn't banned anymore, but it had to be fully cut to shit. I don't know what version the United Kingdom received, but I know it did not play in theaters and it was banned and it was cut to hell. I did get to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre on a UFH channel back in the day. They showed a hell of a lot horror movies. Yeah, usually that is the time where they show that kind of stuff. And we will definitely be putting your questions and your stuff up on the overlay if you guys have any questions or what your favorite stuff is. Not UHF, not UFH. Yeah. Okay. It did make the video nasties. It wasn't even allowed in the UK. They were just like, oh, hell no. Not a fat chance in hell. They did that to several films. I mean, even Evil Dead. Evil Dead didn't come off the video nasties until I think 1994, right? My favorite death scenes. I love it when everybody dies, to be honest with you. I really enjoy the mallet to the head. Definitely love the mallet to the head. That was a good one. And in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you really don't get to see a lot of the death scenes if you really think about it. You don't get to see the gore that's in that. I enjoy putting her on the meat hook, the gallows that they have there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation was your favorite? Really? With Matthew McConaughey, my gun shy? Really? Interesting. I think everyone's favorite death scene from part 1 is hands down Franklin. Yeah, besides Franklin dying, I was very happy when Franklin died. I was cheering for that one, definitely. Not seen any of them, but we'll rectify it next weekend. So Darkbreaker, you haven't seen not one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. Who had a better chainsaw fight scene, TCM or Motel Hell? Are you talking about Motel Hell or Hotel Hell? Because Motel Hell with the pig head on him and that fight scene, I really like that fight scene. I really do. If you're talking about Motel Hell, Faust. Which Texas Chainsaw Massacre was 2 on where it spins was pulled out? Was it where on? Oh, are you talking about True Events? Basement Cap? Motel Hell. Okay, so which Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the one where a spine was pulled out? That I am not 100% sure, to be honest with you. I'm going to have to go and think about which one. I don't remember. I really like the chainsaw scene in Motel Hell. That I did. Serial killer, what is your favorite part of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I think you'll really enjoy it, Darkbreaker. It is something that we have watched in the Discord numerous times. We actually just finished watching the 1, 2, and 3 of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the Discord, which I really like. Now, remember I told you that that still photo that I really liked, the visuals taken during filming of the entire... so the video camera is giving you an angle up, right? And she's walking to the house. And so you catch her, well, her butt as well, and her walking up to the house. That is still like my favorite photography scene. Like my favorite photography scene there. And do you guys see the picture that was running around the internet? If you go and take a look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's a photo of the entire Sawyer family posing on the outside of the house as a gag. Well, that picture was stolen from the set. So that I thought was interesting as well. So they took a picture of the whole Sawyer family. It's in black and white. It was sitting on, it was stolen. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was quite funny. It was taken from a German photographer who was there. So there was a still photo take. For me, it's when Leatherface hits him with the hammer and then runs to the window worried that more are out there. It shows the fear Leatherface had of the strangers coming to his house and also the fear he was going to get in from his older brother, the cook, for killing people and making a mess. 100%. 100% serial. He definitely, like earlier, I stated earlier in CCOH that he didn't want to let his family down. He was so worried about letting his family down that he did everything possible. And you can see that emotion in Leatherface as he's running throughout the whole film, especially in the beginning. Right? So, hello, Donnie. Channel points are kind of disabled. You won't see them pop up because of Coffee Chat of Horrors. And if you're just joining us, guys, this is Coffee Chat of Horrors. We are discussing the deep dive into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974 by Tobe Hooper. If you have missed the beginning half of the show, there will be a VOD up for you guys to browse. Now, and I do agree with you on that, Serial. You tried to scare me. Yeah. Okay, now back to the stolen photo. After the still photo was taken, it was actually stolen from the set by a visiting German reporter who took it back to West Germany with him. And the image of the family eventually became the advertising poster for the first release of the movie in West Germany. So if you can ever get your hands on a West German first release Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster, that is very, very priceless. That picture was taken and they utilized it for the poster in West Germany. So the original photo was stolen. They never got it back. They never got it back. They had the negative of it, but they never had the original photo because the West German reporter took it. Yeah, he stole it right from the set. And a few things from the set actually went missing. Now, Gunnar Hansen was a tall guy to begin with, right? And did you know that he wore 3-inch heels so that he was taller than the rest of the cast? But that meant that he had to duck through doorways in the slaughterhouse. And there were numerous times where Gunnar Hansen hits his head on doorways and other objects several times during the shoot because the Leatherface mask severely limited his peripheral vision, and the 3-inch heels he wore made his 6'4" frame too high to clear all obstacles. I think that would have aggravated me as a actor. Yeah. Yeah, it's the photo of the casting, well, the family, the actors on the porch. I wonder if we have it here in our pictures. I don't know if we have it here in our pictures. Let's take a quick peekaboo. That picture right here. Oops. That picture right there. Let's see if we can zoom in just a wee bit on it without... Okay. So that photo right there. That photo is of the whole Sawyer family. You've got Nubbins, you've got Grandma Sawyer, Grandpa Sawyer, Drayton, and Jedediah Sawyer. That is the photo that was taken. And that is the photo that was stolen. I would think so, Donnie, if it's still around. I have no idea. He was definitely a big boy. Gunnar Hansen was a tall mofo to begin with. Now you have to put him in 3-inch heels. That makes him even taller than when his regular average height. But he had to wear those heels, so he looked like the hulking monster that he was, right? He had to be taller than the rest. And yeah, that iconic photo right there. It's pretty cool. Definitely a really cool photo. And I do have to say a huge thank you to Reaper 1923. Reaper is my partner in crime when it comes to Coffee Chat of Horrors. He creates all of these beautiful visuals that you see right here. What is that? What is that green mark? I don't even know what the fuck that is. Where the fuck did that green mark come in at? Anyways. Hot Dog. Welcome to the crypt, Hot Dog. Thank you so much for the follow. Hot Dogs. Reminds me of what serial killer bought the other day. So he was 1.93 meters. So I'm not sure what that is. So 1.93 meters in height. Feet. In inches. 6.3 feet tall. So 6.4 basically. Plus 3 inches of platform heel. So serial killer bought a hot dog warmer, warmer and bun warmer, hot dog maker and bun warmer the other day. And so Hot Dog's name just reminded me of that. Yeah. So basically with those platforms on, he was 6'7", running around the slaughterhouse, hitting into everything. Stupid me. Why is it stupid? You're going to use it. You'll use it. The film original budget for Texas Chainsaw Massacre was $60,000, but during the editing process, the filmmakers incurred an additional $80,000 in costs. Now, the film did not make much, and so the actors really did not get paid much. A lot of their stuff went to the creation. There is rumored to say that the mafia was involved with this as well. There's a lot of stuff going on with the distribution and the production of the film and where monies came from. And it did not make much. It actually didn't do the greatest in theaters. Again, there were many people who walked out. Here, let's see. Oh, let me pull my chat up over here. Sometimes you just want a hot dog. I will agree with you. Sometimes you do just want a hot dog. And now Cereal can make 25 of them at once. So he can stuff his mouth full of hot dogs. But yeah, the film didn't make too much money when it was released. Obviously, worldwide, it really didn't make much because it was banned in a lot of countries. I'm definitely staying on. I am doing my best to stay on track. We're just about at time, so I'm very, very proud of myself. I am, because it is what, 10:34? Yes. Now, let's see. What else do we got for you here? I like hot dogs. Why was it banned? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Why was Texas Chainsaw Massacre banned? Because they thought it was too gruesome. Not the hot dogs. The hot dogs weren't banned. But the film itself, they thought it was too gruesome. It wasn't banned in the United States. They had to actually cut the film down quite a bit in the editing process so it wouldn't get an R rating, because that's what it was going to get. And if it would have gotten an X, not an R rating, but an X rating, because if it would have got an X rating, it would have been released only in limited theaters and nobody would have seen the film, right? You love pocket dogs? Then again, the chili they were making, I would rather have their chili. Definitely. The bigger question is, can that thing cook brats? Oh, could it cook brats? I don't know. Then nachos as well. What? It cooks nachos? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I have that photo on my phone. I just got your text message, Serial. Yeah, so he kept hitting his head on the doorways and all of that stuff. Now, if you guys are wondering if you could go and see the original house or anything that happened in the film, since the film's original release, the location used for the Sawyer family house has changed completely. It is now an open field with no indication there has ever been a house there. However, there is a there is a place that is opened and operated as Hooper's formerly known Junction House restaurant and Grand Central Cafe on the grounds of Antlers Hotel Complex, which is 1010 King Street in Kingsland. Now, I know with all of the hustle and bustle of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game and all of that stuff, it's really kicked up a lot of tourism there. And so in Texas, they have been doing quite a bit of stuff to play off of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I considered it was made in 1970s, was shocking and groundbreaking. I was surprised it didn't get banned in the USA. Right? Well, they did have to cut it down. There were quite a few scenes that we do not receive in the original release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's really beneficial if you get the director's cut or you get some of the collector DVDs of the film. I have several. Just like with Friday the 13th, I have numerous Friday the 13th collecting DVDs, like sets and everything. Let's see. Yeah. It was definitely groundbreaking back then. But see, Donnie, the unrated version really wouldn't be unrated because Tobe, the way he filmed Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he purposely went into the film so that your imagination would put the rest together. That's what he did. That's what he wanted. He didn't want the blood, guts, and gore to be seen. His whole purpose for shooting the film the way he shot it was so that your imagination could run wild. So there really wouldn't be an unrated version because he didn't shoot things that way. And the way he shot, there were scenes that were cut out that had no gruesome gore blood in it. It was just the sounds were not, the sounds were worse than the visuals. And that's why a lot of it was banned and cut in other countries. Yeah. Tobe, in many interviews, if you read any interviews with Tobe, he has quite a few. There's also quite a few documentaries on Tubi.tv. If you're in Canada, there are 3 documentaries that I would highly suggest watching. They have the majority of the cast and crew that worked on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When I was doing this for CCOH, I rewatched those documentaries again for like the 10th time because I like those documentaries. When I clean my house, I watch them. I also turn on my collectible editions, depending on the DVDs that I'm watching. They'll have director's commentary or interviews with the cast and crew. And so when I was doing the research for this, besides knowing everything in my own friggin' head, I actually rewatched things and wrote down notes. I do use a notepad. And I wrote down specific notes from the documentaries to tell you guys about. So I don't just pull shit from the IMDb pages or the internet. I pull a lot of stuff from their interviews off the internet because a lot of them are on Google. If you go and Google interviews with John Larroquette about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Gunnar Hansen, and you can pull those interviews as well. But the best shit comes from the documentaries that they do or the behind the scenes footage and commentary that you get in the DVDs or Blu-ray. those are the best. That's where they have a lot of information from. The movie had a very clever camera craft and use of sound. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So going back to why it was banned, the film was rejected by the British film censors in 1975, but it did get a limited cinema release in London thanks to the Greater London Council. But it was banned again in 1977 when the censors' attempts to cut were unsuccessful and they tried to do a wider release. It was then banned again in 1984 due to the growing controversial involving the video nasties. And then in 1999, after the censors finally changed their policy, they took the plunge and passed it uncut for the cinema and video. It had been 25 years later. So 25 years since they first banned the film. So they tried numerous times by cutting it, making it wider, doing different things in the film to remove what the British film censors found offensive. And there really wasn't many visuals in the movie to be offensive, to be too gory, because he filmed it a specific way. He wanted a PG-13 rating is what he wanted. He did not get a PG-13 rating. He did get a rated R rating. So, yeah, I worked with a couple people who call Durham Bulls games. Oh, interesting. Damn you, BBFC, right? Shake your fists at them. Just now, fuck that. Took forever. I sent that as soon as you mentioned the pic. That is so funny. Yeah, that is so funny because I just received it, a few minutes ago? So that's when it comes to the UK, it was banned. It wasn't banned in the United States because it hit our censors in the United States and they weren't overly worried about what they seen, right? But he did not get the PG-13 rating that he was so hoping of. It was the biggest grossing independent film until Halloween 1978, 4 years later. So that was pretty cool to know as an independent film because Texas Chainsaw Massacre was an independent film. To be fair, when they released it in 1999, I was 10. I was probably that old when I seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Darkbreaker. I was quite young when I seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it literally blew me away as a kid because I would go with my grandparents, I would go to upstate New York, and that is where my grandparents had they started out as a small trailer, which then turned out into a house, and that was their summer vacation. And so this was in a secluded area of upstate New York, Catskills, where your neighbor was miles down the road, right? So the thought of being in a desolated area, no phone, there was no phone in upstate New York at my grandparents' summer home. There was no phone. Phone lines did not exist in that area of New York when we went there. So you were in a secluded area, forest all around you that you can see. Your nearest neighbor was literally a mile down the road, a mile. So when I seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and again, thinking that it's based on real events as a teenager, because there was no internet. This is pre-internet. So to watch that movie, know that it's not based on a true story. But back then, in my mind, I'm like, this is a true fucking story. Oh my God, this shit's happening in Texas. Like, it really gets you. Texas Chainsaw Massacre scared the shit out of me as a kid. It literally blew me sideways. And then when I would go to upstate New York, that's all I can think about is Jason Voorhees coming at me and Leatherface coming out at me. That's all I could think of. That movie was scary back in the day. So scary back in the day. And I feel bad for those of you that did not see TCM until you were an adult, because the internet ruins everything. It really does. It ruins everything, because if you honestly thought that this was still a real film, right, it would hit you differently. And now, compared to what we have in the movies, Terrifier, all of these horror films, the new Halloween, all of these new films kind of, I don't want to say desensitizes, but it makes it different nowadays for the young people. for my example is people will see Texas Chainsaw Massacre that are older now, millennials, and whatever other form of young people are out there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't scary. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is you know? The Exorcist. I keep hearing from young people The Exorcist is overrated. And I'm just like, oh my God, what? You had to actually be there back in the day because you would not think that it was overrated today. I thought the murder was real, but Leatherface wasn't. The murder, what they portrayed in the film was nothing was real. The only thing, it was inspired by numerous things. So Leatherface was inspired by a Dr. Tobe Hooper once knew. His mask, especially. The family and the way things were done was inspired by the stories of Ed Gein from the 1950s. You know how they had, for example, this right here, the dinner scene. Okay, so this dinner scene right here, where we see Drayton, Nubbins, and Leatherface. Do you see that lamp that's over the family table? Okay, so Ed Gein actually had a lampshade made out of human. I think that's really cool. But he had a lampshade made out of human. He also had a human bodysuit, like you see in The Silence of the Lambs with Buffalo Bill, which is also inspired by Ed Gein. Ed Gein inspired tons and tons of our horror movies that we love today, which is so crazy. But he is the first main sensationalized killer, grave robber, really. But that human skin lamp is pretty awesome. I know. I think it's pretty cool too. I would love to try to recreate some of that, not with real humans, but I would like to try to recreate that. The movie that scared me the most as a kid wasn't a typical horror movie. It was Helter Skelter because it was real. That shit was real. Anything with Charles Manson or the Manson family, for sure, 100%, Zach. The Manson story definitely is very real. Definitely. Wasn't the family loosely based on the Scottish family that were cannibals? That was The Hills Have Eyes. Wes Craven was inspired by a family many moons ago in like the 1800s or whatever of Scotland. That is what you're confusing Texas Chainsaw Massacre with, Faust. So that one, this is the, where is your, oh, I think it's gone now. Yeah, that question right there. It wasn't, that was The Hills Have Eyes. That's where that was inspired by, with Wes Craven. And what, The Hills Have Eyes came out in, what, 77? I did see the trailer for the new Exorcist. Looks interesting. And it's not, no, it's not a remake or a reboot. It is a direct sequel for the first one. I heard the cops that had to investigate Gein's house had some serious PTSD. Yeah, there was actually one guy that was throwing up at the house because when they walked into the garage, they found the woman from the corner store. She was split in half. She was hanging, right? She was hanging off the rafters on a hook. She was like cut in half from Ed Gein's place. Yeah. You can't keep track of all the families. Rod doesn't have a human skin lamp because Heavy has to draw the line somewhere. Right, Deadwalk? Right? But yeah, that is a different movie. Maybe we'll do a deep dive into The Hills Have Eyes. Maybe we'll do a deep dive into that. We'll keep on the line of cannibalisms. I love the film The Hills Have Eyes. All the same. TCM family versus Hills Have Eyes. And the Hills Have Eyes family are technically nuclear toxic waste, right? Oh, that's where they got fucked. Hello, Valoreth. How are you? How are you doing? Let's see. I also know that there is some controversy around the old man, grandfather to Leatherface and Hitchhiker. So Gunnar Hansen noted there is some question as to whether the old man is grandfather to Leatherface and Hitchhiker or their father. Now, Hooper agreed there is ambiguity there, but the character was actually written as their brother. Okay, so I know in my notes how I told you earlier about the family dynamic. That is coming from Gunnar Hansen and Tobe Hooper themselves. So I know the video game likes to change the lore. I know the video game. Yes. So earlier, I don't know if you were here, Serial, earlier when I went through the family, where Grandpa Sawyer is the old and frail father of Drayton and grandfather to Nubbins, Chop Top, and Leatherface. Drayton Sawyer is also known as the cook, the old man. He's the brother of Jedediah, Nubbins, and Chop Top. But I know that question comes up quite a bit, so I definitely wanted to pull from the actual information from Gunnar, the guy who played Leatherface, and the guy who created Leatherface. Where, as I know in the video games, they're trying to change the lore just a wee bit, and there is the video game lore, and then there is the real lore of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Who would win? Texas Chainsaw Massacre family or the Hills Has Eyes family? I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre family would win. Yeah, I just wanted to get that out there because I know a lot of people have not seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre but play the video game, and they're learning a lore that was created after the fact, right? Henkel was a co-writer, but Tobe came up with the whole fucking thing. And I know Henkel is working on the video game with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Katarim, welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. So the people out there that don't really understand that TCM, 1, is not a true story, 2, there is a totally different lore that the video game is portraying compared to the original lore of the very first film and the very first screenwrite and script. So I wanted to put that out there. That's why learning Kim Henkel's versions that came way after TCM 1 and 3. Yes, exactly, Serial. Exactly. So that's one of my reasons for doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because there was quite a bit of confusion on the film itself and the family dynamic. So I wanted to get that out there. There's a effing fly in my murder basement. What the fuck? Now, Jim Sidow, who plays Leatherface's brother, is actually 20 years older than John Dugan, who plays Leatherface's grandfather. I'll put that there to you as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my my coffee chat of horrors. I hope you guys enjoyed my deep dive, my opinions and facts that I have brought together to show you guys on this beautiful Sunday morning. If you do enjoy the show and you want to request other movies to be done, and it's horror movies, so horror realm umbrella, so anything that falls under horror umbrella, I will do on. I will not do movies like the Untouchables or shit like that. It has to be horror related and under that horror umbrella. So if you have an idea for a movie that you want me to deep dive, please let me know, whether it's on a Twitter message, on Twitch, on any of my social media platforms, or in Discord. I will deep dive it and get all of the information for you. Again, the Coffee Chat of Horrors show does take me quite a bit of time. It's not copy and paste information from the internet. It's a little bit of actual full-on research, watching the movies again, rewriting things, going in and actually trying to find script rights, finding information from the documentaries, from the videos, from the director's cuts. I do a lot of that stuff where I write everything down. It's not just a copy and paste from what I see on. Anybody can copy and paste and regurgitate shit. I don't regurgitate shit. I actually do the research and the work and put the time that's involved in Coffee Chat of Horrors. So this is not some other copy and paste horror web show. I actually pull all of this information. It takes me about a week to pull information because I have to rewatch movies. I've got to stop frames and write things down that I see. I have to go into my books. I have books for Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Gunnar Hansen, and go through there and read and pull experts, go through and read, interviews. It is not a copy and paste type of show. This is real hard work with actual research. So if you did enjoy it, let me know. Coffee Chat of Horrors is on IMDb. If you enjoy the seasons, please make sure you go over there and give us a review on IMDb. Episode 1, season 6 will be going up on my YouTube channel sometime next week. So it will be edited and for VOD purposes only. If you want to catch the next live Coffee Chat of Horrors, it won't be until November, unfortunately. And I believe it's November 5th. That'll be our next one. Ra, your Coffee Chat of Horrors show was awesome. Thank you very, very much, Basement Cat. I appreciate it. So the Barbie movie, it's horrifying. I heard it was really good. I don't like that they are trying to erase Tobe from TCM when Tobe came up with the whole... Tobe is the actual creator of Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a friggin' whole. He is the creator. He was inspired by a Christmas crowd in a hardware store, seeing and focusing on chainsaws and saying to himself, I know how to make a way through the crowd. Right? Tobe Hooper was a co-writer for the script and screenwrite. He did not create Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That is all Tobe Hooper. Okay? And the characters are all Tobe Hooper. Bubba, Leatherface, Drayton, Grandpa, Nubbins, all Tobe. Hi, Anu. This was neat. Thanks for this. Well, thank you for being here, Kiba Wolf. I appreciate it. Ra and her magic notebook must be pretty full. I have like 10 notebooks, Reaper. I think I'm on my 11th notebook. I do things the old-fashioned way and I write shit down. I know I have a laptop, but I tell you, it just takes some time to go and do all of that. I just like to write things out. I can create my script in my writing it all out and try to remember it. Nacho Barbie, welcome to the crypt. Thank you for the follow. Anybody can sit there and just regurgitate facts. I like to tell you a story. So you see how I changed my CCOH from the original. If you've been with me for a while, this is season 6. We've been through numerous seasons of CCOH and I have changed the style 3 times. And this is the 3rd style. So I kind of wrote it like a story or maybe like a magazine article that and tried to keep it as organized as that. So when I write it down, I'm also reading it, and that's how I learned my script. So I'm not like technically reading word from word on what I've written here. So that takes me a little bit of time as well. But thank you guys so very much for watching and hanging out with me. It is about that time that I end and go back to my crypt because, gal's got to get her beauty sleep. So I want to thank everybody for being here and hanging out with me on, why aren't my credits rolling? There we go. I'd like to thank you for being here on your Sunday morning and hanging out with me on Coffee Chat of Horrors. I hope you enjoyed the show. We will be live again Monday evening at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the video game by Sumo Nottingham and Gun Media. We will be playing that tomorrow night. So if you want to join us, it is cross-platform play. And I enjoy killing people in that game because my main is a hitchhiker. And I just love killing everybody. Have an amazing day. Thank you so very much for being a part of this show, for being a part of this community. I greatly appreciate your time and your energy. Thank you so very much for the resubs today as well. We had quite a few follows. Welcome. I love seeing new people into the community. Paul Schultz, thank you for your 39 months. Rage Quit Pat, thank you so very much for the Tiggle Biddies. Maeve, thank you for your 32-month resub. And thank you guys for the hangout session and coffee. You guys have a great